Okay, so in this video we will be talking about a brief concepts of alternate angles and corresponding angles, and these alternate angles and corresponding angles are already discussed in lower classes also, right? Yes, so I will be reviewing them briefly. Okay, I'll be reviewing them briefly for a class 9 standard. Alright, so kindly keep in mind. Now before I start with alternate angles and corresponding angles, let's start with a parallel lines. So what are parallel lines? Now parallel lines are two or more lines, alright, two or more lines which do not meet or which do not intersect. We call them as parallel lines. Alright, so parallel lines here can be two lines that never meets or that never intersect, or it can be even three lines, four lines, etc. Alright, so two or more lines that do not meet or intersect each other, we call them as parallel lines. Alright, now the next one is a transversal lines. Now what is a transversal line? A transversal line is a line that cuts through two or more parallel lines, or a transversal line is a line that cuts through a parallel lines. Is it okay? So parallel lines here can be 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so what does that means? That means you see here, if I take the line L and M to be two parallel lines, and if I take another line, alright, another line T that cuts through the parallel line L and M, then this line that passes through the parallel line or that cuts through the parallel line, we call them as a transversal line. So line T is a transversal line. Is it okay? I hope this is clear, right? So I'll repeat again. Parallel lines are two or more lines that do not meet or intersect, and transversal line is a line that cuts through a parallel lines or that passes through a parallel line. Is it okay? Now with this, let's talk about the topics for this video, that is alternate angles. Alright, so what are alternate angles? That is, alternate angles are two pair of angles that lie on the opposite side of transversal sides of a transversal line between two parallel lines. Is it okay? So what I want you to pay attention here is, I want you to pay attention on the opposite side of transversal. Alright, so what are alternate angles? Alternate angles are pair of parallel angles, or you can even write pairs. Okay, pairs of angles that lie on the opposite side of a transversal line between two parallel lines. So what do I mean by that? Let's talk with an example. Supposing I took a line L and M which are parallel, that is L parallel M, and then I took a line T, and this T will be a transversal line, right? So two angles is a pair of angles that lie on the opposite side of a transversal, so it can be this angle and this angle, and then again this angle and this angle. Is it okay? Pair of angle that lie on the opposite side of a transversal line between two parallel lines, we call them as alternate angles. So let's indicate them 1, 2, and let's take this as A and B. Is it okay? So from here what we can notice is that angle 1 and angle 2, they will form a alternate angles. Angle A and angle B, they will also form an alternate angles. Is it okay? I hope this is clear, right? So you see here 1 and 2, they are on the opposite side of a transversal between two parallel lines L and M, right? Likewise, even A and B, these are also line on the opposite side of a transversal between two parallel lines L and M. So the important point that you need to note here is that parallel alternate angles are equal. This is the property. Alright, that is, your angle 1 here will be equal to angle 2, angle A will be equal to angle B. They will all be equal. Alright, now see, you see here, this angle 1, angle 2, angle A and angle B, all these are between the parallel lines, right? So this will be known as the interior inside a parallel line, so they will be known as interior alternate angles. All right, now talking about that, let's take another parallel line L and M just like before. All right, T. So in this case we have already discussed the interior one, right, inside the parallel line. Now outside the parallel line, this angle and this angle, correct, let me put as 3, 4, correct, and then this angle and this angle 5, 6. All right, now these 3 and 4, 5 and 6 are also alternate angles, but since they are outside the parallel line, we will call them as exterior alternate angles. All right, so even here also, angle 3 and angle 4, angle 5 and angle 6, they will form an exterior alternate angles. Is it okay? So it won't be that much important also, just know this, get this into your head. Okay, it's not that complicated to understand. Alternate angles inside the parallel lines will be interior one, and alternate angles outside the parallel line will be the exterior alternate angles. All right, so likewise even here also, angle 3 will be equal to angle 4 and angle 5 will be equal to angle 6. Is it okay? This is all about alternate angles. All right, alternate angles, they are equal. So a brief review again. Alternate angles are pair of angles that lie on the opposite side of a transversal between parallel lines. All right, it can be between inside the parallel lines as well as outside the parallel lines. All right, but it will lie on the opposite side of a transversal line. Is it okay? So if the alternate angles are between parallel lines, we call them as interior alternate angles, and if the alternate angles are outside parallel line, we call them as exterior alternate angles. Is it okay? Now again, our next topic will be corresponding angles. All right, so what are these corresponding angles? Now corresponding angles are two or more. Okay, let's take two parallel lines. Okay, let's take PQ. All right, so P parallel Q, and I'm taking a line L. That is, line L here will be a transversal. All right, so pairs of angles that lie on the same side of transversal, that lies on the same side of transversal in a parallel lines, we call them as corresponding angles. All right, so difference between okay, before I give you the difference, okay, what I want you to pay attention here is that corresponding angles are pairs of angles that lie on the same side of a transversal in a parallel line. So what if I take this angle as A, this angle as B, then, and let's take this angle as 1 and this angle as 2, correct? Now what we notice here is that your angle A and angle B, correct, your angle 1 and angle 2, this will form a, these two pair of angles will be known as corresponding angles. Is it okay? Yes. Yes, so that literally means corresponding angles are pairs of angles that lie on the same side of a transversal in a parallel line. Is it okay? So here a line L cuts through the parallel line P and Q. So it will form angle. So the angle from here are, I've marked it here, A, B, 1, 2. So A and B, they will form a corresponding angle. 1 and 2, they will also form a corresponding angle. And the important point here is that again, corresponding angles are equal. Is it okay? That is, your angle A will be equal to angle B, angle 1 will be equal to angle 2. Alright, so corresponding angles, they are always equal. So now I hope this is clear about corresponding angles, right? So what is the key difference between alternate angles and corresponding angles? That is, alternate angles always occurs on the opposite side of a transversal, but corresponding angles always lie on the same side of the transversal. So alternate, opposite, corresponding, same side of a transversal. That is the difference. Now what is the common thing between a corresponding angles and alternate angles? That is, both alternate angles and corresponding angles, they will exist if and only if alternate angles and corresponding angle, they will exist if and only if that is, in short we write IFF. Alright, alternate angles and corresponding angles will exist if and only if there is a parallel lines. That literally means without a parallel line, if the line are not parallel, we will not get alternate angles and we will not get corresponding angles. So that means both alternate angles and corresponding angle will exist or will be there if and only if there is a parallel line. Is it okay? So no parallel line means no alternate angles, no corresponding angles. Is it okay? So overall review, alternate angles are pair of angles that lie on the opposite side of a transversal, in a parallel line, and corresponding angles are pair of angles that lie on the same side of a transversal in a parallel line. And alternate angles and corresponding angle will exist if and only if there is a parallel line. Is it okay? I hope this is clear to all of you. So now from the next video, I'll be uploading the exercises. I'll be uploading exercise 6.2. Alright, so kindly get this concept clear, because exercise 6.2 purely deals with in exercise 6.2 we will be using all these corresponding angles and alternate angles. Is it okay? I hope this is clear to all of you.